Now it is my pleasure to introduce opportunities for founders across New York. You know, you've built your idea, so what comes next? Across New York State, there are incredible competitions like this, accelerators and support programs designed to help founders take that next step from concept to company. Today, we're joined by leaders from some of the state's most impactful programs to break down what they do, who they're looking for, and how you can get involved. So whether you're seeking funding, mentorship, customers, or simply the next opportunity, this panel will help you understand what's possible after this competition. So let me introduce our next panelists and ask them to take the stage. We have Seth Mulligan, Interim Vice President for Finance and Administration at Griffith Institute. Come on, Seth. Patty Rankberger, Innovation Fund Manager at FuseHub. Patty, please join us. Amanda Riley-Pittman, Program Manager of Dairy Innovation in Center for Regional Economic Advancement at Cornell University. And Sujatha Ramanjan, PhD, Managing Director and Chief Investment Officer at Luminate Accelerator. Welcome. Jump right in. Okay, to get started, I'd love for you. Who is it for? So, Seth, we'll
we have one of the state's certified accelerator programs and certified incubator. There's a lot of different layers of this state's ecosystem, which is awesome. Some groups like ours have different sets of those layers. Some are more independent. Some are not state supported and run on their own, which is awesome. So amongst those layers, we are the Griffith Institute, and we support the Air Force Research Laboratory in Rome, doing some of its spinning out technologies and supporting startups. We run something called the Hustle Defense Accelerator. We'll talk a little bit about that later.
I'm Patty Rankberger. I'm the Innovation Fund Manager at FuseHub. FuseHub is your New York statewide manufacturing extension partnership center, and what that means is that we work with anybody who has a physical product. So when we say manufacturing, people still kind of think of the manufacturing line or factory, right, where products just go down, but these days there's a lot of, there's quantum computing, there is everything from breweries to medical devices and everything in between. And we support companies in any stage of development. So some of you have an idea, you haven't, for a physical product, you haven't even actually created that first version of it yet. You're not too early, we can help you. You already have a version of that, you're trying to iterate, make it better, bring it to scale, design for manufacturing, we can help you through that. You already are producing, ready now to scale up, so that's in your future. We'll help you through that as well. So I like to tell people at FuseHub, we are like environmentally friendly glitter. We stick with you through the whole process.
Great. Amanda?
Hi, yes, my name is Amanda Pittman, and I work for Cornell Center for Regional Economic Advancement, and many of you know us as CREA. And in CREA, we run a portfolio of entrepreneurship programs. Many of them are funded through the state. We do have some programs funded through federal funds, and they all focus on really helping startups start up and scale. Most of our programs are free. We also run a business incubator. We're located in Ithaca, and it's called Rev Ithaca Startups. I'm on the food and ag innovation team that's led by Jen Smith. Unfortunately, Jen was unable to be here today, and we have a variety of programs that we manage. I manage dairy innovation programs, specifically Dairy Runway, and that's for entrepreneurs who are developing value-added dairy products. We're at the very early stages. The program that many of you are probably very familiar with is Grow New York, and that's what I'm going to be talking about today.
Great.
I'm Sujatha Ramanujan, and I run the Luminate Accelerator. This program is a program of NextCore, which is one of your sponsors here. We run a series of programs. And Luminate is funded by Empire State Development. It's one of the business competitions that you may know of in the state. This one particularly focuses on optics, photonics, and imaging, and which is a core strength of this region in Rochester. And we take 10 companies a year from all over the world to come and spend 6 months with us as they build their supply chain and their product line, and eventually hopefully set up shop here. And we pick 3 or 4 winners and stay with them. We are really fortunate that almost 85% of our companies are either in business or a couple of them have exited well and bought by others. So for the most part, we have a very high success and survival rate. And I credit that in large part to the infrastructure that is here in the state of New York. That as a world-class optics and photonics center, when a company comes here, they get what they really need. They get access to clients, they get access to the supply chain, they get to build their product in this very specific field, and get access to investors. The most important thing that I think that can happen to a company when they come here and they join us is that they feel part of a very large ecosystem. And we really strive to maintain that. So like others, we stay with you for the time you enter the program. It's kind of like Hotel California, you can't check out and stuff until you exit and give us money, then you can check out.
And yeah, we can go right down the line too. You just touched on the next question, and let's talk about what founders actually get. What does the program offer? Funding, mentorship. So, Seth.
Thank you. So Hustle Defense Accelerator is very much like a Y Combinator. It's a short blitz experiential program. Most of our cohorts run around 10 weeks. We take our cohorts to some sort of defense industrial base or Department of War fielding experimentation site. Sometimes that's in Rome, sometimes it's in other places in the country. And we do a DC experience week as well to understand some of the efforts at Pentagon level. Companies have that residential experience, some blitz coaching and mentorship. There is safe notes issued at the end at a pitch event. We make safe note investments annually around $500,000 to $550,000. We have a flexible structure. Awards have been as little as $25,000 and as much as $300,000, depending on sort of the stage and the need of the company. We are pre-seed, so we actually have taken companies in that are yet to be incorporated sometimes. By the end of the program, we help you through that, and in order to place our award safe, you would have to be incorporated. But we don't want you to be scared if you're a pre-rep, and this is something we really look for. So that's sort of the overall guidance, and of course, because it is one of the state programs, if you are awarded, this is part support with Empire State Development through their 9-star branch, right? You're committing to come and grow in New York and have a presence here, and we help you with some of that transition of opening offices, finding talent, finding a place to call home if you so choose to grow with us for the next couple of years. That covers about the mechanics of it.
We have 4 different programs specifically that can help you through all kinds of challenges and stages. I don't have enough time to delve into those, but at a high level, you're never too early. So if you need help, you just, you are at the initial stages and you need to know where you go from here, right? We are one of the people, like if you come to us and you have no idea where to go, you don't know the Griffiths and Grow New York and Luminate exist, we'll connect you. Although we all do that, right, with each other, but this is our bread and butter. And then specifically at Fuse Hub, I run the Jeff Lawrence Innovation Fund, so I have 3 different ways to fund your technologies. And one of them is the manufacturing grants, which incidentally is accepting applications right now. You do need to partner with a not-for-profit organization to be eligible to apply for that. $65,000 grants to a project, and you can be in any stage, so you don't even have to have a first prototype. This can be proof of concept, and you can apply for funding. The second one is part of the New York State competitions and very similar to the New York State's business plan competition is our commercialization competition. For that, you have to have at least a first iteration of your prototype, right? So we support physical products. You have to have that first version of it. I don't care if it was 3D printed or sewn together in your basement, right, with scraps that you had at home. Doesn't matter. You bring that in, $150,000. That is not a grant, that is an investment that we make in your company. And our third funding opportunity is called the Innovation Challenge. That is always industry specific. I do expect to have one in the microelectronics industry this year, so if you're working in microelectronics technologies, keep an eye out for that announcement, and it'll be a $60,000 grant. We also do workshops and events, both virtually and in person. Our biggest event of the year is the New York State Innovation Summit. We move that across the state every year, and this year is near here in Buffalo, so you're all invited to come join us at the summit, October 27th and 28th.
So Grow New York is also funded through Empire State Development, through NYSTAR. It is a global business competition for startups that are early stage, high growth, that are doing work in the food and ag tech space. You do not have to be making revenue yet. We do ask, we are looking for applicants that have a prototype or at the beta stage, so past concept. And what we offer is, we work with a group of finalists, 20 finalists, and they are participating in a 10-week incubator. So we match them with a business coach, and then we are, essentially we're bringing companies from all over the world, right? You don't have to be based in New York. We're looking to really grow the food and ag ecosystem here, right, and provide the support for companies that want to scale here, right, and see how they fit into the ecosystem that we are supporting. So we are looking to connect people with potential partners, right, during that 10-week period. We're providing the coaching, we're helping people develop their pitch, and then obviously, they are really, we're helping them to raise awareness of their company here. So, and we are obviously working all together as well, working through this network. Applications are actually open now, and applications are due May 15th, and then we announce the finalists the end of August, and they're really working with us from the end of August through the middle of November, and that's when we have this culminating event. It's called the Grow New York Summit, and this year it's actually taking place in Rochester at the DoubleTree Hotel, and that's when finalists will pitch their ideas to a committee of judges. And then the prize, it's like a 3-tiered prize. We have 7 winners. The top prize is $1 million, and then we have 2 winners at the $500,000 level, and then 4 winners at the $250,000 level.
And let's talk about founders, let's help founders understand the fit. And Sujatha, I'd love to start with you. I mean, your program really is drawing founders really from across the world. Tell us a little bit about what types of startups or InvestMatch and where they come from.
I'm actually going to use this mic as well. Okay. So we look for, again, a very specific industry. Optics, photonics, imaging feeds a lot of other markets. We look for founders who have a working prototype, because this is a field where people have a lot of really wonderful theories and that take a while to be something. They do not have to be in revenue, although I argue that many of ours are. What I find, a lot of people think in other competitions, they think they're too early. I find the opposite. I think people think they're too far along for us, and that's rarely the case. You can even be profitable and still do quite well in this because our job is to help you grow. So we are looking for somebody, and in the case of international, a lot of companies that come to us are early stage. Maybe they might be making money, but what they're trying to do is set up their U.S. operations. Especially in the current geographic environment, it's very difficult for these component-based or smaller companies to ship product internationally. So if the primary clients are sitting in the U.S., which they often are, we get a lot of companies that want to become a U.S. company and have manufacturing, be able to ship directly to their clients. So that has been the appeal, I think, for the international clients. I won't lie, it's hard to get into, right? Like some of these companies have applied 3 times before they could get, and I think that's the same with the other competitions too. We're fortunate that we're able to get a lot of different types of people applying. And last year we were 70% international. This year And sometimes it's arrogant, so I'm like, oh, I don't need any help, I've got $45 in the bank, I mean, I don't need this here. And then they find out, oh my God, I do need more money. So that's, as long as you want to grow, and as long as your valuation is like somewhere reasonable, right? Because we're going to write $1 million check at the end, so if your valuation is more than 100 million, it's probably not right.
Amanda?
Yeah, I agree. I think that often people think that they may be too far along for Grow New York, and you know, certainly, you know, we encourage people who, you know, are not pulling in revenue, but you certainly can be pulling in revenue, and you know, I think that there's just a tremendous opportunity to learn a lot from your coach and also from the other finalists too. And for people who are coming in from out of state and from out of the country, it's an incredible learning opportunity as to, you know, what Upstate has to offer, right? I think also for New York specifically, people often will think that it's either you have to be, you know, the founder of a startup that's focused on creating a food or beverage product, right? Or it's, people think it's just for ag tech, right? And it's food and beverage and ag tech. So I think that that's a common misunderstanding. Yeah.
The most common confusion I get is people think, you know, because we have this physical prototype of the manufacturing aspect of it, they think that if they are not planning or don't already have a manufacturing plan of their own, that they're not a fit. And, you know, people think that the contract manufacturer is the manufacturer, and they're not. They, you know, so if you have a physical product, you may not see yourself as a manufacturer, but for our purposes, you are. You own the idea, you own the product. For us, even if you're not physically bringing that into life in the world, you're still the manufacturer. So you're eligible for our programs.
Yeah, so for fit and eligibility and kind of the right size and what we look for, I think the best thing I would say is the confusion is usually around, oh, does that mean I must be, you know, scaling and ready to take a venture round soon? No, not necessarily. We'll take companies that make their money through their own revenue, through their own product sales, or through contracts to federal agencies. I think the other thing is defense. Oh, like defense is it's a landmine kind of topic, right? I mean, some people.
I know.
Some people believe, you know, it's polarizing sometimes. But if you think about national security, about things that protect critical infrastructure, things that increase our intelligence, things that there's. I guess my point is there's a lot more crossover technologies that are dual use that have both a municipal and commercial application as well as for our defense. So if you think a little bit more broadly and think about that as a market as well, as even in one thing we love to do with Hustles, show you how you can pursue a more federal DOW sales-oriented channel while developing your commercial product in that channel as well. So I think the other thing is that people believe that it's you have to be ready to go as a full startup. Well, that's true, but we will also look at startups that are spin-outs of an existing company or a university, or that if you are a serial entrepreneur and you don't even have yet a product or a piece of intellectual property to build something from, one thing we can do is broker you a patent license agreement coming out of a federal lab. So if you have a product, or you think about, I have a product, but I actually think there's something better I could augment with a piece of federal IP, we'll help you find it, get it cheaply or freely licensed to you, and you can develop and enter hustle on building something brand new, right, from that inception.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the cheat code. So what should applicants, what should they have prepared before applying? And what's the right time or stage? And I think we've gone over this a little bit, but you know, what makes a really good applicant, one that jumps off the paper and stands out for you? Sujatha?
So the thing that really gets me is if they know their industry and they're critical in their industry and they realize that. If they see that and they have a directed plan that they want to get into that industry, that usually jumps off the page at me. With the right time to apply, in terms, our window is September, so September to January, but in all different stages. And we guide them through what we're looking for, because our application asks you about your market, about your background, and everything else, so we can really understand outside of their pitch really who they are. So I'd say actually, I'm often we're looking for something, right? So I know in any given time period we're looking were short laser companies, and so I was looking to see if there was a laser company. And every year we all look at the portfolio of the mentor group and we say, hey, what are those things that we really should have and that we don't? And that doesn't mean other companies won't get in, but it does mean that we're gonna look for them.
And what kind of data? I mean, like, how do you realize you need more laser companies? I mean, how do you work with your partners in the ecosystem to identify what those marketplace needs are?
So there are a couple of ways. We have sponsors and partners and a really deep mentor network. We're all coming from industry. So a lot of them will tell us, hey, this is the crisis we're facing right now. This is the biggest problem the industry is trying to solve. And we'll start to look for people who solve that problem. The second thing we do is we regularly map our portfolio against industry. We're like, how do we sit in the world of optics compared to other optics investment groups, and also who's doing M&A. Because eventually these companies have to exit, so we kind of look at the spectrum of who's doing what and try to position our portfolio so that we are not too heavy in one area, that we're exit timing is another thing. So like we pick up with a certain number of medical device companies, they take longer. We need to pick something up that's midpoint, which is maybe making some money, maybe they're not ready, but they're not med tech, they're not gonna take 15 years to get out. So there are a lot of aspects of balancing it like a portfolio that we look at.
That's great. Does anyone else apply some of that, course correct, pivot your programs along the way?
I think you have to. I think what we've realized with Hustle is, we started with like, okay, we'll do it once a year and we'll have a general call. Like, come one, come all. If you're doing something cool in national security, we want to hear about it. And then we're like, well, that's great. We're getting more applicants, but we're not matching them to a customer solution or a challenge, right? And so now we do ones that are more, like for example, our recent Hustle cohort that is going on right now is AI in command and control software systems. Like, that's very specific, but that's exactly what one program officer out of Hanscom is looking for, right? So, they have to pivot and you have to ebb and flow so you meet customer need, but we also like the general and open topics, and this is why anyone should apply at any time. I think that the state's ecosystem is an open one door, right? Open one door will make the referrals to all the others if you're not the right fit. But it's the trend spotting sometimes in the applications that calls for the next topic of the accelerator. So when we see activity and energy around several, 3 or 4 or 5 like-minded companies or like-minded sectors, that might end up being the next call, the next open challenge.
For us, there's two legs that we course correct. One is the innovation challenge. That's why it's industry specific, right? So we pick a challenge, an industry that we see, behooves a little bit more attention at the moment. So right now, microelectronics in New York is like hot, right? So that's why that's what we picked for our innovation challenge. Before that, we did advanced materials. We have done food and so we try to spread that. But we try to keep the other tracks open to all industries. So it's a lot. I don't think there's a huge value on the portfolio balancing across industries. So what we have course corrected in that regard is integration, right? Feasibility, because we have invested in innovations that were brilliant, better solutions to technical problems than what's available on the market. And once those founders completed their projects and they went back to the customers were very risk adverse. They weren't willing to try this new solution. It doesn't matter, you can tell them it's fabulous, but until you had your pilots and then it's the chicken and the egg, you need to convince that first person to buy your product. And sometimes you can run out of funding resources, out of other things before you can convince your first customer to give you a chance. So now we're looking at it a little more intensely, like how ready for integration with current processes is your idea. How we're really looking at customer discovery, and have you really thought about who is paying for your idea? Are they really ready to purchase, to put money, right, into this? So.
And Amanda?
Yeah, I'm not as close to the application review process or evaluation process, so I can say though that what the review committee is looking for, just in general, is applicants
show us you understand it, then we can jump right in. Yeah, those tend to do well in the program too.
You talk about common mistakes. What are some common mistakes? Like great company, bad application, or great idea. What are some of the common mistakes that founders make when applying or choosing programs? And what do founders tend to overthink? You know, if you had advice to offer someone right now before they got into this, what would it be?
So, I mean, each one tries to make its own unique and special mistakes, so. Probably, and this is not gonna show easily in an application. The single biggest mistake a CEO can make is to be arrogant. And if I smell them being arrogant, I'm so done. Because you can't coach somebody like that. You can't help somebody who is arrogant. And what's more, they will make a lot of people angry in the process. So I know that's not necessarily the technical thing, but if I could point to one problem, it's the lack of humility can cause you a lot of grief.
Amanda, what do you think?
Yep, I actually just want to build on that because I think that's a really great point. Just because, with Grow New York, and I think like a lot of these programs, incredible resource is being matched with a coach, right? And I know that Jen and other Sarah Meyer often talk about like how coachable is a team, right? Through the accelerator process. So I just want to, I think that that's such an important point because that is such a valuable resource is being able to be coached. So I guess I don't know about, mistakes that people make in their applications, but just that I think it's, if you are applying to one of these programs, you are indicating that you are open to guidance, and that you realize there is room for growth, right? So
I think one of the mistakes I see is lack of clarity, and that can come across as maybe you're too close to what you're building, and you think parts of it are obvious, and they may not be as obvious as you think they are, and so you kind of gloss over parts that leave the judges with all kinds of questions. So make sure that you really, right, when you're explaining your idea, there's such a thing as the elevator pitch, but you're putting an application together, make sure you dive in a little deeper. And also, don't gloss over the scoring criteria. We have all unique scoring criteria. My scoring criteria is different than the business plan competitions, even though our programs are similar. Sometimes people have pre-made materials. They kind of send that in, because they already have it, and it's a little less time-consuming to put that application together, but then you completely miss things that are important to get scored on. So make sure, that's the point of the fit, right? Make sure that you're a good fit. And part of that is looking at the scoring criteria, making sure that you come across strongly in the things that we are measuring you on.
What do you think about humility, Sam?
Humility. I don't know, I'm not trying to think about it. I'm just kidding. No, absolutely. There's always a mix of the personal traits, the classic, are you betting on the jockey or the horse? It's important to be a competent leader and recruiter of people and a communicator, especially around sales. So there is definitely personality traits that could sink a company right out of the gate, even in the tone of language in their application. But it's also about the tech and the fundamentals of a product, and is there a market that's going to bear value, in are you building a solution to meet that value? But I think the biggest mistake, in addition to what my colleagues have said, is to understate competition. I can clearly remember, I'll change the names to protect the innocent, but there was a microwave counter UAS product. They direct a microwave beam, knocks out the bad guy drone. Cool. And swore up and down, there's no competition. No one else is doing this. Well, I can tell you, they may not be using a microwave, but a nylon strap and a rock is thrown into the rotors is what they're doing in the desert here or there, right? I mean, competition more broadly, you need to be unique. You need to have something differentiating. But when you say no one has ever done that, or no one is like this, or no one can satisfy this, you're not thinking broadly enough about your competition. You got to think even about the incumbent thing that's there today. There's very rarely net new human activity, right? So make sure you talk as much about who might be your competitors, or who might be your joint venture to market, or who might be your acquirer, or how they've already blazed a trail of sales and you're going to sell the next best thing. there's a lot of validation in vetting out your competition fully.
That's great. Well, and speaking of competition,
Uh,
let's zoom out a little bit. Why is New York a strong place to build right now? What are the biggest opportunities? I always say that this state is absolutely rich with resources. And, tell us about our competition in the world and the country. Why are we rich with?
For me, it's an easy answer. I'm working in optics, photonics, and imaging. This is like a mecca for, there's no other place that has, just in the infrastructure, 150, 160 optics companies just in the region, plus the startup puts us north of 200. What is it, 350 million in annual revenue. This is, I don't have to advertise this. This is a great place to be in optics. People know. And we do get calls saying, can I be in your accelerator? I'm like, I don't have to put any money in my company. I just want to come. And I'm like, yeah, stuff like that. But so what we have done, and this is really important, is we didn't try to create a new reason for people to come here. We looked at the most important reason why somebody would want to come here and build something around that.
Natural assets.
Mm.
Water.
Water.
Water,
Water.
yeah.
Water. I always said that in economic development.
Yep.
Water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that obviously, I'm coming from Cornell, so, all of our higher ed institutions that are in the upstate area, it's really incredible, just in terms of the research, and the innovation platforms that they provide and innovation infrastructure. I think also, in terms of food and ag, I think that New York is really in many ways the agricultural engine of the Northeast, right? We are one of the highest dairy producers in the country. We are really high up there in terms of food manufacturing. But I also think that it is, our state's diversity, right? Which just, there's such a wide range of needs, which makes it such a incredible place to be an entrepreneur, right? So, yeah, I think it's a great place to start a business. And I think there's, do you want us to also talk about like where there are opportunities now in our
Go for it.
space? Sure. I think there's some really interesting work that's going on in the food as medicine initiative, right? It's happening a lot at the state level across the country. I think that there is, a real need in terms of like technology and infrastructure that's needed to connect our like healthcare providers with local producers. So I think that's something that some interest in.
Yeah, I think New York State has a rich history from foundation, right, of entrepreneurship, from textiles to optics to Jello, right? So many things were created in New York State. There's some nice start funds over 85 centers of excellence, centers of advanced technology, right? Our researches. So like we have this incredible network of resources, but when it comes down to it, to me, Shelby, I'm gonna totally call you out on this, is the people. The people who are so passionate, they get emotional on the stage because I'm right there with you, sister. Right? We love what we do. We out here, we don't want to do anything else. I can tell you right now. We love what we do. So we are here to support you for the love of supporting you. And this is unique, I think, particularly so in upstate New York.
How about that aerospace?
Yeah, I would say many of the things, right? But it's the combination of all the many of the things. We have approachable size cities and markets where you can do real serious vetting of products and pilot sales and beta testing. We have a willing entrepreneurial community. Events like this happen all the time, always across the state, more than even just 10 or 15 years ago. I think the scrappy underdog kind of humble nature of most upstaters is a real resource. I think and then to find all those in one spot, to find all those, and we're not one spot, but we are. The differences between Little Falls and Buffalo are far, far, far smaller than the differences of many places in the country. Like Upstate has an identity and a unifying economy and a set of fundamental assets that are very, very powerful. And I think most of the time, the challenge is not necessarily direct competition that we compete with, but with ourselves. There's a bit of can't be done here, oh, there's not enough capital, oh, it doesn't happen enough, oh, there's not enough serial entrepreneurs. But a lot of that's just misconception that we constantly kind of beat up every day. And that's what's exciting to be here to celebrate, youthful people going through their college experience, pitching, things like that are what kind of stem that tide.
But what is also important is to know that after this competition, there is a built environment with a lot of next steps and support. And we're doing everything possible. We're colleagues, we're friends, we work together, and we're part of your network. So